Time to light the match for the burning truth with Casey Hendrickson.
And good afternoon. Thank you for tuning into The Burning Truth. I am your host, Casey Hendrickson. Friendly reminder that if you are interested in getting tickets to 95.3 MNC's Noise, 95.3 is one of our major affiliates in the South Bend, Elkhart, Michiana region. That's my home base. You can go get your tickets at 953mnc.com. Again, that's 953mnc.com. Noise is Saturday, October 26th at the Lerner Theater in downtown Elkhart. Event starts at 4 p.m. Rob Schmidt, host of Rob Schmidt Tonight on Newsmax, is going to be the special guest, along with John and Laura from Michiana's Morning News. And we hope that you will go get your tickets today. They start at just $40. You go to 953mnc.com, click on the Noise banner, and you'll be able to get your tickets for Saturday, October 26th. We'll be able to talk about all sorts of stuff happening in society and media and leading into the election. It's going to be a lot of fun. Noise is always a blast, so make sure you check us out again on the event. And usually we have, other guests, radio hosts and Fox News personalities, and people have been asking us if we're going to do somebody from Newsmax. And yeah, we are. And it just so happens that he's from Indiana. He's from Carmel, Indiana. So Rob Schmidt is a Hoosier on Newsmax, and he's going to be joining us there. I want to play just one more thing about the FEMA stuff, and then we're going to move on. I feel like it was an important enough topic as the controversy's been happening, and obviously Americans are still, missing. The death toll has been ticked upwards. You've got just a ton of people trying to help but not being allowed to help. Tim Kennedy is a legend. And if Tim Kennedy says something is happening, it's happening. He's not known to be a liar or somebody who makes things up. And Tim Kennedy is on the ground there helping people who are victims of the hurricane. And I just want to, this is a 2.5-minute clip where he's talking to the news and he's telling everybody what he's experiencing with FEMA. And basically it's this. One, he's confirmed a lot of what the whistleblowers have told Congress that we talked about earlier today. But also he says FEMA is here, but they're actually in the way. So this is Tim Kennedy talking to a news team about what's actually happening there.
Are they still not there anywhere? What are you seeing from FEMA in the federal response, if any?
I mean, they're present. They're in the way. They are directly interrupting our ability to conduct missions and operations. And I'm not going to disparage anybody because we are trying to work within partner relationships, both government and non-government entities within state and federal and county. I went to put a couple of people into a hotel last night, and they have a security guard at the hotel. And they said, "Oh, we're so sorry. The entire hotel has been booked for federal employees." And I was like, no, I have people that would just pull it out of a mountain that are living out in the hills, and there's not a place for me to put them because we have federal employees that are staying in the hotel. I slept in this white car last night. I smell like foot and death right now, as does every single person on our team. Not a single one of us slept. We got done maybe at 3 o'clock the moment the sun was up and we could fly helicopters again. We were back in the air and we have not stopped. And I was like on the fence about trying to get on this program or not. I want people to understand how incredible this organization is, Save Our Allies, and all the work that all of these volunteers are doing. But people, this is biblical level devastation. This is apocalyptic, the things that we see out there.
These are towns up in the mountains that are 10, 20, 40 miles away from any other town. And people on the ground like you need helicopters from the government, and they will not release them. I have heard that time and again. And the people who are delivering aid up in the mountains are now getting requests for body bags. Tim, we got to run.
You are 100% correct. Oh, you're right about that. And there was a no-fly when the president flew in today. We had to land helicopters to not go rescue people so a photo op could take place. And that's a travesty, and that's unconscionable.
If people want to donate, is it saveourallies.com?
That's right. And if somebody is stuck somewhere, or you know somebody that's stuck, you can go to saveourallies.org, and you can click on there. Let us know. We have people going all over in the places that can't be reached. That's why we have special operations people working with partnerships to get into those areas. So go there, support that organization, and also let us know where to go.
Tim Kennedy, you are a great American. Thank you. And I know all of
And again, Tim Kennedy, former Special Forces operator, Green Beret. A lot of people know him from his UFC days, and he's done television work and things like that since. But what people don't know is that he does disaster relief, and he's been doing it for a while. And he has been on the ground. He says progress is being made, but it's slow. And that interview right there confirmed what whistleblowers have been telling Congress the past couple of days about how FEMA is botching this effort. And we talked about that at the beginning of the show. One of the things that they mentioned is that the hotels are being booked up for federal employees, and people who are now homeless don't have a place to stay. And that's par for the course for this administration, don't you think? FEMA makes mistakes in every administration. I think we all are furious with FEMA's ability to do their job. It doesn't matter if it's a Republican or a Democrat administration. FEMA screws up every time they get places. A lot of people are referencing what happened in Hawaii and how terrible the response was for Hawaii. And it was horrible. And this is, a lot of people say, equally as bad, if not worse. But if you are going to take over all of the hotels in an area where there's limited space and not allow people who are now homeless to have a hotel room and a hot shower and a continental breakfast or whatever the hotel is going to do, and instead have your federal employees in their cushy little rooms, that's pretty disgusting stuff. But they also did this with veterans in New York City and put illegal immigrants in there. And they did this all over the country. So it isn't exactly anything new. But Tim Kennedy, whatever you believe about pundits and things like that are talking about this, Tim Kennedy has a stellar reputation. A lot of these other people who do disaster relief efforts have a stellar reputation. Some you've never heard of before, but you probably know who Tim Kennedy is. And if Tim Kennedy is saying something is happening, there's a good chance it's happening. Elon Musk has been out there talking about the ability of Starlink to help in disasters for several months leading up to this, after the FCC stuff. And now all of a sudden, Joe Biden, after attacking Starlink and sending his Democrat chair from the FCC to attack Starlink, and the federal government, of course, has been attacking Starlink relentlessly now for a couple of years. Now all of a sudden, Joe Biden's like, I'm forcing Starlink to what? Actually, what's really been happening, according to Elon Musk, is that the federal government is requiring Elon Musk stay out of it while they are seizing Starlink assets in order to distribute the Starlink assets in order to play as hero. Just like you have whistleblowers saying they're seizing trucks full of food, and FEMA's locking it in their storage house, and then FEMA's going to distribute it and take all the credit for what everybody else is doing. Folks, who needs the credit? People don't have food. People don't have hygienic supplies. I can't imagine, feminine hygiene's got to be a major issue right now. What does it matter? Distribute the goods. Make sure that people who need rescuing are able to be rescued. For Pete Buttigieg to go out there and go, oh no, we haven't shut down any airspace. Yes, you have. You told us yesterday you did. Don't tell us that you're not shutting down airspace. So Elon posted 10 hours ago, I am essentially being pressured by the Biden administration and the media to stop providing Starlink services to flood-ravaged communities in North Carolina. They want me to stay out of it and let them handle it. And then Joe Biden goes on TV and basically tries to take credit for all the Starlink stuff. But your administration's been at war with Starlink now for 2 years. For no reason, because you don't like Elon Musk. I don't know how you feel about Elon or Starlink or anything else, but Starlink has the ability to work in the middle of a disaster when your conventional lines are going down. So a lot of people in disaster-prone areas have been buying Starlink as a backup system in case their primary systems went down so they could still communicate with the outside world because the system will still work. And that may be a major selling point going forward, folks. The fact that Starlink is working and everything else is down. Cell phone service is down. Your traditional internet is down. Your fiber is down. Everything in these areas is down except for Starlink. That may very well be a selling point in the future for this technology. We got to shift focus a little bit. And I know we did a lot on that, but honestly, I really feel like it was important stuff. Iran has directly attacked U.S. military personnel for many, many years in Iraq. There was a missile attack in 2020 that was Iran's. Well, we had personnel that were injured in that attack. Those personnel have been trying to sue Iran for that attack, and the U.S. government under the Biden administration has been preventing them from doing so. I'm I'm going to play you an interview, a segment of an interview, I should say, from Catherine Herridge, one of the best in the business, talking about this, and we'll break down this story coming up on The Burning Truth. Hey, good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in to The Burning Truth. I am your host, Casey Hendrickson. Friendly reminder that you can watch the live stream on Rumble. Go to rumble.com/Casey the host. So Catherine Herridge has been covering a story here for the past couple of days in which she's uncovering that the Biden-Harris administration is not allowing U.S. service members who were injured in Iran's 2020 ballistic missile attack on their base in Iraq. Now, the news media, by the way, has decided to try and deflect away from this story so Catherine Herridge's story doesn't get covered. And instead, they're going after Trump because Trump, well, frankly, he said some things that, yeah, I think military personnel and veterans could probably take issue with on the severity of the injuries involved. Now, if you go back to 2020, a lot of the outrage against Trump with his response to some of the injuries that were sustained there were overinflated and largely fake news. But he was asked about this again just a couple of days ago because this story is starting to come out. Operation Martyr Soleimani was a reaction to us killing Soleimani, and they launched ballistic missiles at U.S. troop positions in Iraq. They nearly killed around 150 U.S. troops, but they largely missed their target. Thank God nobody died. However, there were some injuries. And at the time, we did not have any kind of an idea of what the severity of those would be. But, we're looking at concussions, possible TBIs, but that was still too soon to determine. And those are serious things. And I think that a lot of people, Trump included, by the way, don't really give it the attention that it probably should get. And I'm willing to sit here and tell you that I don't like a lot of what Trump has been saying about it. I do think that a lot of it's being taken out of context, but that doesn't mean that I agree with what he's been saying. So he was asked about this a couple of days ago. He mentioned a headache again, and that has just led the media to go talk about that. Meanwhile, Catherine Herridge has been uncovering that the Biden administration has not even allowed the troops that were injured in this attack to bring their case against Iran. Now, are they actually going to get anything? Probably not. The point is to uncover what had actually happened. And yeah, you can certainly make a case that other people should probably be able to sue the United States when we do something similar. Okay, that's not the point. The point is the American government is preventing Americans from filing this case. Can you cue up my audio, please? This is just a 1-minute snippet from an 11-minute interview that Catherine Herridge did with personnel who were injured and some others, where she talked about these leaked military memos, indicating that, hey, there's potential toxic agents here, including probably radioactive material that were used in that attack that hasn't really been acknowledged by the American government, and the American government is actively blocking these soldiers from filing their claims. So have a listen.
Are these military records an acknowledgement that Iran's ballistic missile attack exposed U.S. service members to toxic agents?
100%.
And it describes radiation, heavy metals.
They absolutely are directly related to those ballistic missiles.
Is there new evidence service members are getting sick?
Yes.
How strong is that evidence?
Very strong.
And we're talking about soldiers who are, in their 20s?
20s, early 30s, otherwise healthy.
And they believe that it's linked to the fallout from Iran's ballistic missile attack.
Correct. There were some potentially profoundly dangerous isotopes that we were dealing with. I do have some concerns for thyroid cancer myself.
To be clear, you're monitoring what may be thyroid cancer yourself.
Correct.
We're going to have another Agent Orange situation where 10 years down the road, these service members are going to be out and they're going to be dying. And they're not going to be cared for.
Okay, that's, again, just a teaser for the interview, which I will put in the Daily Show prep at btmedia.news. So these documents come out and they highlight that, hey, this ballistic missile attack probably had some radiological elements as well. And that is a bit of a problem. And of course it is. Now, back when the attack happened and we were all saying, okay, well, thank God it didn't kill anybody. And at the time, we only had reports of some concussions. We didn't have any definitive TBI diagnoses or anything like that. That takes time to develop. We didn't know anything about any of the isotopes or any of the new evidence that has just now come out. Okay. I don't know. Trump knows about it. I'm not sure. TBI is very serious. I have watched many veterans, undiagnosed, didn't know that they had TBI, over time, become completely different people. Going from calm, rational people to volatile, irrational people. Oftentimes really starting to believe conspiracy theories. And I'm talking like quackadoodle conspiracy theories, weaving their narratives in their own head, where they would have never done that if they were in their normal right frame of mind. And I've watched this happen to dozens of people who served overseas. And we're really just starting to understand the effects of TBI, its effects on the suicide rate of veterans and some of their behavior, drug addiction, self-harm, all of those things. I don't know if Trump is privy to all of the new information about this. I seriously and honestly do not know. I am not sure. Now, back when this first broke, he was being attacked and criticized because he was talking about, well, listen, they've got a headache. And I told you, I didn't appreciate the terminology there. But he was also referencing it in, hey, thank God nobody died. Nobody got hit with a missile. And that's how he was framing it. Like I said, you can criticize the other stuff, but they were trying to say that he was just dismissing it. His position was that, thank God they didn't die. So as a result, he didn't escalate further with Iran after that because we killed Soleimani. They fired some missiles. They did not kill any of our personnel, and he largely did not have a major response to that, militarily anyway. Certainly economically and politically he did. And a lot of people are bringing that back up again to bury the other fact here, which is, hey, they want to bring a case against Iran that there's some isotopes, there's some harmful elements that have now been exposed, these troops have been exposed to. And the Biden administration is actively blocking their effort to get that out there. And I think you want to be fair, look at this and go, hey, I don't appreciate Trump's comments, but I also don't appreciate the Biden administration hiding it either, which is ultimately going to deny them benefits. Just be consistent. Got more coming up. You're tuned into The Burning Truth.
The Burning Truth with Casey Hendrickson.
Good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in to The Burning Truth. I'm your host, Casey Hendrickson. You can watch the live stream on Rumble, rumble.com/Casey the host. Almost to the weekend. And a lot of you are on your way home right now. Some of you are at home. Appreciate you hanging out with us and tuning in. Want to thank R&B Car Company, locations in South Bend, Warsaw, and Fort Wayne. Go to rbcarcompany.com. Over the past several years, I've given you numerous examples of the federal government. It actually goes back through the Obama administration. The most famous case in the Obama administration was the school lunch program research that Michelle Obama used to push the school lunch reforms that ended up happening in the country. And for those of you who don't remember all of that, Michelle Obama decided that the thing that she was going to take on was childhood obesity, and she had the Let's Move campaign and everything else. Now, while Michelle Obama is somewhat fit now, she wasn't at the time she launched it, which was the butt of the joke. It was like, okay, why is the first lady, who frankly is out of shape, why is she pushing this? But she got into shape and has fairly maintained that for the most part. But part of that was, let's change the school lunch program. The school lunches in the United States are pizzas and tacos and French fries and cookies, oh my. So let's change all of that. And it was, on the surface, it was a positive and lofty goal. Our kids are not eating good enough school lunches. Therefore, we need to change the eating habits of our children to make them more healthy. Now, of course, you're dealing with a leftist. So anytime you're dealing with a leftist, that includes, less protein, more carbohydrates, and more vegetables, which is wrong. I don't know how else to say it. It's wrong. But that was the big crux of it, right? So we knew that was going to come down, right? Lofty goal, let's get kids to eat healthier. But then we started running into some real problems. Some of the problems included healthy sandwiches like turkey sandwiches being thrown out by public school officials and children being banned from bringing turkey sandwiches from home because turkey sandwiches were unhealthy. That is a real story. That is not me making it up. That's not me being hyperbolic. That is a real thing that happened in this country, that there were school districts based on the standards that were established by the federal government because of Michelle Obama and her program to reform school lunches. That happened. In many places, you couldn't bring a lunch from home with the standard, basic, relatively healthy turkey sandwich. I'm not saying it's the healthiest thing in the world, folks, but, nothing's wrong with the turkey sandwich. Then you had the actual school lunches that were being provided to students that they could buy. Back when you used to buy, remember when you used to be able to buy school lunch, Morgan, and it wasn't given to you regardless of your income level? Remember that? Boy, it's almost like they did it for political reasons or something. It's crazy. We used to have to buy school lunches. And they started putting these really gross foods in ridiculously small portions that were not meeting the basic caloric requirements of children, were not meeting their basic protein requirements, were not meeting any of their nutritional requirements at all, but on the surface look healthier, like canned carrots and just gross crap that obviously the kids were not eating. So our kids ended up not eating school lunches. The research on it was terrible. Kids were throwing them away. They weren't consuming them. And it ended up being a real big deal for a couple of years there. Right? Some of you are probably a little bit younger and you don't remember the politics and the outrage over this. But they started comparing American school lunches with other countries. And it was embarrassing what our kids were being fed. So parents had to start getting creative on what they could actually send to school with their kids because the schools were monitoring what it was in many locations, not all, but in many locations. And in other places, the school lunches that were being provided because of government requirements were not enough food to satisfy a child. So they were hungry, which of course affected their studies. It affected their behavior, but they also weren't eating it because it was gross. So now, all of that was based off of research from one guy at a university. One guy did the research, which the White House and the First Lady's office used to change all of the school lunch program in the United States of America. All of the requirements, everything else that was done and changed in all of those years under the Obama administration that children suffered, and yes, they suffered, at school with the student lunch program. That was all because of one guy's research at a university in a paper that he published, and Michelle Obama and the White House used it and ran with it to completely change the school lunch program in the United States. The problem is, we ended up finding out later, under the Trump administration, all of his research was bogus. It was all fraudulent. It was all fake. He made it up. The White House ran with fake research, fake science to completely change policy and negatively affect the children of this country for years. That was one of the most egregious examples of this, but it's not the only example. Well, now we've got something else. A preprint. Now, preprint studies are not things that you should take seriously at all. So you have a preprint, which is, hey, this is a preliminary finding, and we think we need to dig in more to see if there's something there. Then you got a peer review, which is like, hey, we think that their results are accurate. Peer review is, the bare minimum that you should be accepting, and peer review is a problem. A lot of peer review research is garbage. We just highlighted a peer-reviewed study that got retracted the other day. And, ultimately you want a clinical trial. You want a blind clinical trial. That's what you want. So a preprint, which is a non-peer-reviewed study, that was widely cited in support of the Biden-Harris administration's pause on liquefied natural gas, LNG, exports, was published on Thursday after going through peer review. Okay. Now, this was used by the Biden-Harris administration to justify stopping and halting our liquefied natural gas exports. All right. We were a net energy exporter under Donald Trump. We are not anymore. While the preprint claimed that LNG produces 247% more emissions than coal, the peer-reviewed version now claims it's only 33%. I would say that that is a dramatic revision, don't you think? Now, if you were looking at this and you were at all familiar with liquefied natural gas, and you looked at any research that said liquefied natural gas is 247% more in emissions than coal is, you would automatically probably look at that with great skepticism and go, I don't think that's correct. Well, you're right, because it wasn't correct. It's actually 33%, which means liquefied natural gas is way better on emissions than coal is. Even considered on the time frame of 100 years after emission, which severely understates the climate damage of methane, the LNG footprint equals or exceeds that of coal, the study originally stated. The study was authored by Cornell University climate scientist Robert Howarth, who openly advocates for the rapid elimination of fossil fuels. An analysis published in August by the Breakthrough Institute found a number of errors in that work. Howarth told Just the News in August that he did not agree with the analysis's findings, and he stood by the validity of his research. This is further confirmation that LNG export pause, which has caused our allies to rethink the stability of the United States as an energy partner, was based on shoddy science that was produced purely to deliver an anti-energy outcome. Now, that is Jeff Eshelman, president and CEO of the Independent Petroleum Association of America, which is, again, an industry group. Howard told Just the News Thursday that the published study hadn't lowered estimates from the preprint. He said that the original version estimated LNG exports were 24% to 274% greater for coal. What? Okay, that's a heck of a range there, bud. And a May revision states that LNG exports are 28% to 200% greater for coal. The published version estimates 33% and has no upper end estimate. So yeah, he's putting a giant fear-mongering label on there, knowing full well he's misleading everybody. The upper end represented a small number of tankers, as I always wrote. I dropped these from the final version because new data that became available publicly only in July of 2024 showed that these tankers are no longer at sea. Sure, yeah, okay, automatically brand new stuff came out in 2024 when you were already being criticized for your preprint findings. According to the breakthrough analysis, the figures were revised several times. In May, Howarth's study claimed that LNG produced as much as 64% more greenhouse gas emissions than coal on a 100-year time frame. In January, the White House announced a temporary pause on pending decisions of exports of liquefied natural gas to non-free trade countries until the Energy Department can factor climate change into its review of the projects. Yeah, so the guy basically had a bunch of bogus nonsense out there. The White House made a decision based on his work, which is not the first time that they've done that. His work is then destroyed by the scientific community, and then he has to revise downward and basically admit that his work was not accurate while not admitting that his work was not accurate. So he's basically just saying, oh, new information in July. That's the only reason I revised it all downward. No, it isn't. Because you're being criticized for your data being dog crap before then. So you have to get really manipulative if you're going to say a couple of tankers that still exist in the world are what could drive liquid natural gas to being 247 times more in harmful emissions than coal. That's one ship. That isn't the aggregate. So what are you doing making that claim if you're not deceiving people? Because that's what he was doing. So policy, once again, based on fake science. Got more coming up. You're tuned into The Burning Truth. We live in an Orwell novel. I don't know what else to say. Yesterday on this show, we played you from the official U.S. Department of Transportation site audio of Pete Buttigieg on October 2nd saying that there would be flight restrictions, temporary flight restrictions, to not allow people to fly in these areas because it impedes rescue efforts, he said. But we had helicopter pilots telling the entire world that they were not being allowed to fly. And so on October 2nd, Pete Buttigieg records a video. The U.S. Department of Transportation's official social media account pushes it out and says that we're going to have flight restrictions. And Pete Buttigieg is saying that there's no flight restrictions. Meanwhile, Elon is like, well, we have helicopters that are not allowed to land, so can you please tell us what number to call so they can be allowed to land? And Molly Hemingway is like, this is just, it's surreal to watch this play out in real time. It's just, can you just cue it up, please? I don't know how else. For those of you who missed it.
There's also some safety issues that come up. For example, temporary flight restrictions to make sure that the airspace is clear for any flights or drone activity that might be involved in helping to allow those emergency responders to.
Yeah. They can fly, you can't. They can fly drones, you can't. I retweeted it on, yesterday, because I'm like, oh, you don't want drones to fly. Because the U.S. Department of Transportation's post is, do not fly your drone near or around rescue and recovery efforts for Hurricane Helene. And, okay, they basically say that this could cause, interference with emergency response and everything else. It could impede search and rescue operations. How could a drone impede a search and rescue operation? Unless you're going to crash into another drone. And so I just retweeted and was like, or, stop showing the devastation. They seem really upset that people keep posting video of all of this. But he said that they were going to have flight restrictions. The Department of Transportation said that there would be flight restrictions. And now Pete Buttigieg is running around and going, there's no flight restrictions. But there is. I don't know. I really don't. So there's this crazy lady, the editor-in-chief of the far-left Blue Anon conspiracy website, Mother Jones, posted a tweet and said, creeping Christian nationalism alert. Alaska Air flight attendant just wished us a blessed night as we landed in SFO to groans. Oh, I'm sure that people on that flight groaned, other than you and your immediate party, maybe. Other adjectives that would have sufficed is great, awesome, fabulous, amazing, fantastic. As my roommate said, this ain't Montgomery, sweetie. Uh-huh. You can have a blessed day without it being Christian, Dingleberry. And this is like a Christian nationalism thing, right? Because again, I keep asking people to define Christian nationalism, and I never get any leftists to actually define it. So I'm just forced to define it myself. Are you a nationalist, which means you just love this country more than other countries, and are you a Christian? Because I guess that makes you a Christian nationalist if you're in those two categories, because they cannot actually tell you what in the world it means, because it's designed to be malleable. Not to be right. If Christian nationalism is actually a thing, and for the record, I do believe that there could be a rational, logical definition to the phrase, this kind of pearl-clutching panic over being blessed by a stranger makes a mockery of it. The left has done to the phrase what they have sadly done to legitimate terms like racist and sexist, undisciplined. They have used them as pejorative attacks against anybody that disagrees with them on matters of public policy. But at the end of the day, it just doesn't make any sense. Allie Beth Stuckley says, this tweet is proof that Christian nationalism doesn't exist. This is embarrassing. Yeah, it is. And of course, they deleted the post. Why did you delete the post? What did you delete the post for? Huh? I mean, honestly, are you really that offended by somebody hoping you have a blessed day? Really? Christian nationalism. Holy smokes. Like I said, you're dealing with the quackadoodles out there. Hey, folks, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Hit the subscribe button on Rumble. If you're not there, go to btmedia.news for the Daily Show Prep podcast and more. We'll see you Monday.
Podcasts by Federated Media.